What's up, YouTube? And welcome to the Killer Comic Show, or shall I say, Bar Week Garnar Week Ninny Bon. I'm pretty sure Peter's the only one that will understand what I just said. Welcome to the Killer Comic Show. I'm Tom, and I am just taking over for the first 10 minutes, as it were. Charlie's let me loose just to say hello.
Hi, I'm confused. Nice to meet you. Not sure what's
so
going
Charlie
on
is back after a hiatus last week, where he decided to, take a week off. Or was it last week? The week off? Week before?
I'm even more confused now.
Week before. No, so I'm trying to confuse everyone. That's basically what I'm trying to do. And we've also got Triple G with us again. Thank you for joining us, Peter.
Pleasure. Absolutely looking forward to this. Cannot wait to get into this.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. It's going to be probably a very long show, people. So strap in. It's going to be a good one, I hope. I hope we can do all this justice. How are we both? Are we both well?
All good, mate. All good.
Yeah, good. All good. Good week. Looking forward to talking Transformers. One of my favourite subjects.
Looking forward to talking Transformers. On that note, I dropped a note in here early to say, well, let's see if the Transformer comic this week is better than the last two that I voted for us to read.
Yeah.
We'll obviously get.
What were they? We had a pre-chat.
Well, we had a little bit of a chinwag about it. There was The Wreckers, which was written and drawn by Jack Lawrence, who was a friend of mine, by the way. Unfortunately, wasn't the best comic to read. And then we did Grimlock, and the least amount said about that, the better.
It was horrendous. It was horrendous. But you posted that comic, and the chat's buzzing. We've got Fuzzy Dunlop.
Chat is buzzing, mate.
Log one with Comic Brothers. Yuko demands treats. Everyone, evening, everyone. Good evening, sir. Batdan is here. Up with ducks. Quack quack. We've got Mr. Chris Ding Dong Bell. Fuzzy Dunlop. Chappies. Chappy.
Chappies.
We've got some guy who's constantly on YouTube. You can't get rid of him. Triple G.
Royalty.
There we go. We've got Mr. Poptimus. Good evening, Darren. Thank you very much for joining. Leon Russell. Do let me know if Dan has sent you that Alice sketch that he did. Because if he hasn't, I'll drop him a message and give him a fistful.
Give him a fistful. Fistful of dollars.
Yes, there we go. Fistful of dollars. Martin, Millions Information Booth. Good evening, sir. Thank you very much. And we've got Team Kins MF. Evening, or we'll catch up. I've got the weekend, but have a great show. Thank you very much. And Mr. Owlman himself, Dr. Von Hoots. Good evening, sir. Good evening. Last Stand of the Wreckers is awesome.
Last Stand of the Wreckers.
That is agreed.
That one is good, but that wasn't the one we reviewed. We reviewed the new Wreckers one that came out in 2020. The Last Stand of the Wreckers is written by Nick Roach, which we'll talk about a bit later, because actually I think there's influence of that. But Last Stand of the Wreckers is probably one of the best written Transformer comics of the 20th century. At this current second, when we get chatting, this might change.
Yes, and there we go. And what as Leon said, he hasn't, sadly. Perhaps Dan is still in the post office queue if it's anything like my local. I have been speaking to him today, and he is very, very busy. He was meant to be at New York Comic Con coming up, but he's had to cancel that because he's cracking on with a load of other stuff. So, Fist and Dan is hotly anticipated new Netflix series. Here's our star in episode 1, and you can catch that at this link below. It's called Triple G Comics / YouTube royalty. There we go, and that's the exclusive. There we
YouTube royalty.
So, last week we did covers of the week, which I think we did. I wouldn't know because apparently I was away. But you know what?
I got confused on what week we were in.
Fuck it. So, Pete, you've been with us long enough now to know that this is the business end of it. Business end and the start of the show.
The business end.
For everyone in the chat, you didn't do what I said last week. You didn't send me no inspiration for these comic covers, so I've had to go on my own again. So I do apologise if you're sitting through the dullest Harley Quinn covers and whatever it is. All right, that's it. This is Killer Covers for the October 4th. New comic book day, which came out yesterday, starting with a bang and very appropriate to the show. Up first, I've gone for Transformers issue number 1. This was hot off the press. This was hotly anticipated. Everyone was after this. The Scotty Young Store exclusive variant cover. This is sensational. Like, everyone loves Scotty Young. His work is timeless. I was waiting at 3:32 to get this comic that went live at 4 o'clock in the UK about 2 weeks ago. No chance, not a chance in hell. And I'm gutted because it is sensational. It's amazing, and it's very appropriate that it came out this week. This just screams Transformers fun. Scotty Young. This was just I had no choice to go for it. Tom, I honestly thought you would have gone for this.
Well, the thing is, I did, and I put it in the drive, and I thought to myself, actually, I didn't want to take it away from you because I knew you really liked it, and you stayed up till stupid o'clock in the morning to purchase this. So I thought I'd rather have a look, see what other comics are out. However, not until the last minute, League of Comic thing put up some awesome covers for Transformers that I didn't even know about until the last minute. So that really annoyed me. But yes, mate, I totally agree. I think this is a total winner this week. I don't think there is any other better comic cover this week, to be perfectly honest. This is one of the best ones I think Scotty Young has done for a while. And I think, like you said, it's the fun side of it. So you get that fun aspect of Transformers. It looks like a toy. Yeah. It looks like the original G1 cartoon as well, which is great. Yeah, I really like this cover. I'm gutted I didn't get one either.
And Martin, luckily enough, Martin's a massive Scotty Young fan. He got 2 of them. So yeah, Martin, if I send you my address, mate, and you want to just drop me a Christmas present, thank you very much. Pete, what do you think of this one?
I love it. I think it's stunning. It's got that fun kind of toyetic kind of feel to it, as Tom just said there. Oh, that's interesting. I was the same as you, Charlie. I went to get one of these. I had it in the basket, went to check out, and then they said they won't ship to the UK. So I was absolutely gutted. Luckily, I have got a friend who has managed to snag us a copy and has sent it to us, and I'm going to send that to somebody else who I know wanted a copy. So I have managed to get my hands, or will be getting my hands on a one. But I think it's stunning. I think it's I just love the background, the flames. It just looks mint. It's very cool.
And James is saying, does Scottish stores ship to the UK? It doesn't ship to the UK. You have to kind of use like a PO forwarder. So use My US or Slacker and stuff like that. Million said, why did you stay up? It was released at 2 p.m. I didn't stay up. It was released at 2 p.m. UK time. I was on at like 2:20, 1:20 or 1:35, whatever. I tried to get it, just sold out, mate. So it was the luck of the draw, but well done. It was 350. 350 I was logging on trying to get it, but unlucky enough, luck of the draw, the bots won this one. So hopefully in maybe I can get hold of one, who knows.
Going for silly money on eBay now as well, isn't it?
Yeah, man. But it will die off. So hold out, guys. It will die off because obviously the hype and everything will start to die down shortly. I love the fact that either Scotty Young had a chat with Daniel Warren Johnson about what goes on in the book, because this is literally a page panel from the book, which is pretty cool.
Good evening, Connie. Thank you very much for joining. And Fuzzy's also said his Dracula is also a cool cut. It is indeed. It is indeed. So this is my cover of the week. Hope you like it. Up next, there we go. Look at this. Go on, Tom.
Oh yes, sorry, I was reading the comments. My bad. I went for the Chrissy Zulo Trick or Treat variant. I think these are amazing. I think they're so cool. They're like really quite kind of fun, and they're like, in my opinion, they're very, very similar to Scotty Young's kind of thing. It's like if I see a comic book cover and it's fun and it's draws me in because it's kind of a bit quirky. That's kind of the reason I picked some of the covers that I picked, and I thought this one was very like Addams Family style, obviously because it's Halloweeny. But I just really like it. I like the composition. They're all like mates on their like going and doing the Halloween trick or treating. I just think it's really cool and it's kind of cute. It's not as good as Charlie's cover. Let's put it lightly, but I do think it was a good pick this week. So, what do you guys think? I also like that it looks like a mirror. I think that's pretty cool.
I love it. I love the framing of it, and I think my favorite character out of it all is the little Batgirl sack being pulled along. I just think she's great. Yeah, it's cute. Have they done a series of these then? Are there lots of different ones for these?
Yes, mate. So they've done quite a few of them throughout October for Halloween. Pretty much every DC book has got one. I just picked this one because I thought it was the cutest and probably the best one. The Batman one's a little bit standard Batman-ish, if that makes sense. So it looks like how you would expect a Trick or Treat Batman comic to look like. I thought this one was the only unique one.
See, I did what Fuzzy did because I've bought all the Rose Besh ones. Like I've got my pull list with Slab Crusader, so I've got all the Rose Besh ones coming, and like CG Seed and stuff like that. And then looking at these, I think if I hadn't bought the Rose Besh ones, I would have got these because these are cute. These are really fun. Like they are great. But I think I've done the same as Fuzzy.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
Evelyn Copley, thank you very much for joining, sir. But yeah, it's a great cover. It is a great cover. But yeah, she's done quite a few of these. So yeah, so that's the
Dr. Von Who, that's the cover. The Forbidden Planet exclusive cover is the cover Charlie wouldn't let me swap for.
Rules is rules.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Rules is rules. I need to nick a win if I can. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
So you got a nice cover here, Tom. Yeah, got a nice cover. And then this one.
Look at it. That's so I was flicking through the covers and this just leapt out at us. I just think it looks stunning. I love the rain kind of pelting off his hat and everything. I just think it looks classic. I love the way the purple stands out against the blue background. It's just cool. I think it's very, very cool. And I think that's a nice one that I'll probably pick up and get CGC'd just to have displayed. Yeah. It's Darkwing Duck. You can't go wrong with Darkwing Duck, you know?
You can't. It's sensational.
Man, that's quality.
Yeah, it's sensational. Martin's just said he got the 1 in 100 Transformers 2. Forbidden Planet emailed him yesterday, and I was getting the boys their tea and ran to get my bank card. The boys thought, "What's happening, Daddy?" Basically, your dad just lost his shit.
Yeah, I bought the 1 in 100 as well, to be fair.
Yeah.
I'm not going to cook your dinner. Off you go. And we've got RJC TNT. Evening, sir. What's up? Thank you very much. And a Spider-Man homage cover. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, it is.
So we've got 3 fantastic covers. The vote is now live over on YouTube on the community tab. You can go for the poll in the chat and pick what one you like the best, and we will talk about it at the end, and we will win absolutely nothing.
Nothing, just bragging rights.
Absolutely nothing. Just bragging rights. Just bragging rights. So this week we're mixing it up a bit. So obviously, if you're new to the chat, we kind of review the comics from the week before, so it gives everyone a chance to read the comics and catch up, so we don't do spoilers and stuff, because we're generous like that on this show. But this is week 39, which was last week. But we're also doing Transformers #1, which came out yesterday, because you know what? Why not? Why not? It's a fantastic comic. Tom's not here next week. I know he's a massive Transformers fan. He's put a lot of time and effort into what we've got coming up. So. But first, we're going to do Alice Never After. So, Alice Never After, issue number 3, came out last week. He's going to end it. We've got the main cover by a good friend of ours, Dan Promotion. We've got cover B, which is the Florentino variant cover. Fantastic watercolor there. Cover C, which is the 1 in 10 Dan Promotion Virgin variant cover with the speech bubbles of what they're all saying to Alice. And then we've got the cover D, which is the 1 in 25 Bill Sinquisic Virgin variant cover. And the fantastic art is by Giorgio Spalletta. What did you two think about this before I get into it? Because we spoke about what comics we're gushing over this week, and obviously I think you guys, other than what we're going to read, this is my gush go-to. Oh, that's a good word. That is the gush go-to.
Gush go-to. Like
there
that.
We go.
Get that on a t-shirt. Yeah, like that.
So go on then, Pete.
Definitely.
You take it away.
Hashtag Charlie's gush go-to.
So right. Okay. I've not read series 1 of this. So I'm a bit behind the curve, and I think I've read the last issue and I've read this one. I kind of want to stop reading it now so I can go back and read the first series, so I can understand the kind of the wider storyline, as it were. I thought it was fun. I thought the dialogue was great. It was entertaining. And then all of a sudden you get the real world. And I've heard you guys talk in the past about, you know, what you think it might all mean and things like that. I hadn't switched on to that. I was just laughing at, you know, the silly side of it, I guess. And then you got this stuff, which was really quite dark, you know. So I have to say it's really piqued me interest. But I'm going to stop reading it now, and I'm going to go back and read volume 1 and then catch up with it, because it's got us interested. The last couple of pages threw us quite a bit. But yeah, the artwork as well, by the way, is absolutely stunning. That center page which I picked there, I just loved, absolutely loved it. So yeah, it's a book that's really interesting. It's not your standard kind of superhero book, if you know what I mean. It's an intriguing storyline. So looking forward to learning more about it and going back and reading the first volume.
Go on, Tom.
So we've been reading this consistently. I think we read the entirety of the first series, book for book, and we've done so far the same with this second version of this series. And it doesn't disappoint. It is a really good read. It's really interesting. I love the take that Dan Panosian has done with Alice, where like the Wonderland is in her head and then the normal world is obviously outside of her head. But the blurred lines that's currently going on in the series and how everything is now kind of amalgamating into one. We spoke about it a fair few times on the show about the fact that we believed that the Cheshire Cat is her father, and it's never been confirmed apart from in this issue. They confirm that it is her father, and she talks to him like it's her father, and it's so good to finally get that clarification. And also, what a way to do it. The panel on the left-hand side, the first panel you can see, is that kind of change in the Cheshire Cat. So he turns into her dad and then change back to the Cheshire Cat. And you can see the reality change with Alice, which is just phenomenal. And also, like, I'm sure Charlie will touch on this, but I will leave Charlie to touch on this one, actually, to be fair. But what it leads to at the end of the book is really interesting, and it's something we've all spoke about quite a lot on the show. And we actually talked to Dan about this as well. We weren't allowed to kind of give it away too much anyway. But what a comic. What a great comic. If you're looking for something new and different that isn't superhero or isn't like to do with sci-fi or anything, this is a very cool book to get into. And it's dark and gritty and a little bit horrific in places. But the storyline between her father, and her sister trying to get her memory back is just phenomenal. I mean, the writing is just incredible. I can't praise it enough, really. If you haven't read the first series, I implore you to do so. But you could quite easily, like Peter has done, read the second series and not be too confused on what's going on. So that's pretty cool. So that's my review of it, and I think it should get at least a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10.
I absolutely love it, right? And literally this, I think I've said it time and time again. I might sound like a broken record, but when I was growing up, Alice in Wonderland is my favourite film, and it's still my favourite film now. Like the different versions of it and everything like that, it still tells the same story. Like it's still, and the fact that it's evolved now too. Effectively, Alice is now an adult, and she's dealing with the mental health and like the drug abuse and the drug addiction and family issues and stuff like that. Throughout the whole first season and this, they've alluded to the fact that it's all in her head and that she prefers to be in Wonderland now. She goes into, I think it's Medhurst Hospital, and then you've got like the Queen of Hearts who's Huldah, and then you've got Dr. Madsen who do the lobotomizing and stuff like that. This issue kind of alludes to the fact that, is it real? Is she now living in Wonderland? Because obviously she's totally lost her shit. She's like not with it at all. You get to understand that her sister Edith is basically fighting her corner in the real world, trying to find out from Dr. Madsen if there's any reversal for the procedure that he carried out on her. I just think it's getting darker and darker, and it's getting deeper into the whole like mindset of how Alice is really living. Are these people that she's talking to, like kind of what's actually going on? And I have to speak, right? So the panel that Pete picked is fantastic, because she's kind of like, I've got nothing else to do. Everyone's against me. I'm going to go and fill my face full of food. I'm just going to go and sit down and fill my face full of food, because I don't think she likes the fact that everyone's now calling her the Queen of Hearts, because in previous, everyone knows, she knows what the Queen of Hearts is about. She's a bitch. She doesn't care. She's like, off with their head. Like, she's going to do all that. I think it's really cool. Like Giorgio Spalletta and Dan are working so well. They've done it for 2 seasons now, and it's working fantastically. And the way that it's such a easy transition from reading and looking at Dan's work and then going into reading Giorgio's, looking at his artwork and then going back again. I have to say it now. I've been speaking to Dan now, and I sent him a message earlier of the last panel, and I said to him, Andy was right. Like what Andy said, we kind of alluded to it, because it clearly says there, unbeknown to us, Alice is with child, and this is hot off the press. His words were to me, "Is she?"
Yeah.
And I went, "Well, it's clear there." And he went, "Is it though?" And I was like, "Okay," because Andy came up with that thing that she was pregnant and said to Dan on the show, and he was like, "Okay, fair enough." Well, I said that the fact that she's addicted to drugs and she's always chasing the white rabbit, like that's a drug term, is it chasing the white rabbit for the next high? Yeah. So when I sent him that panel, I said, "Look, it's been confirmed." He was like, "Maybe, has it?" So I think it goes deeper than that, but I'm loving the character development, like the walrus, the pig, the tiger, the fish. It's just all wicked. And if you look closely here, like there's in the bottom, Alice is there. Alice is in that bottom panel, and she's just kind of away with the fairies and stuff like that. And her parents and her sister, and they're all sitting there thinking, "Fuck, what are we actually going to do?"
No.
I can't get enough of this story. Like, I love it. It's my go-to book, whether it's like issue number 1 or it's issue number 1 of season 2. It's my go-to book, and I would implore you to read it, Pete. Read issue season number 1, and it's great as a trade paperback, because there's different stuff in there. There's like sketches at the back and everything like that. And after like becoming friends with Dan and having him on the show and stuff, and seeing how much he does with the work, you just kind of get engaged in this comic a lot more.
Yeah.
And now he's thrown that curveball where he's like, "Is she?" I'm like, "Oh, fucking hell! I can't wait to read like the next issue." So yeah, I'm not gonna give it anything other than a 9. To be fair, you ain't getting nothing else out of me. That's it.
I'm done.
Yeah. You're quite right, actually. Now I think about it, like I still would give it an 8, but the character development in this particular issue is phenomenal, because you end up getting a bit more of the walrus, the toad, the rabbit himself. You kind of get a bit more of each character, and you kind of like in each issue he's developed on each character, as it were, and this one kind of just solidifies how important all those particular characters are and how they influence all of Wonderland, which is quite cool.
Yeah, and I think Fuzz has just said, looking forward to Canary next month. I read that when it was on Comixology, and it's sensational. Scott Snyder, Dan Panosian, they absolutely kill it. And if you like the dark and grittiness tones of Dan's work, you're going to love Canary, because it is an outstanding story. It's a quality book. Like Dan and Scott have actually smashed the ball out of the park with that one. So yes, look forward to it. Enjoy it, read it, and let us know what you think. All right. So that's Alice. That's Alice done. So guys, that was a fantastic show. It's been a great show. It's been a really, really good show. I told you I was going to mix it up this week. It's been really, really short.
Great show.
So Tom, I understand that you've got to go now. So we're just going to continue, and we're going to talk about Transformers issue number 1. Go on, Tom. I know you're chomping at the bit, mate. Go on.
Transformers issue 1, written by the amazing Daniel Warren Johnson, artwork, colors by Mike Spicer, and I think the lettering is done by. Let me just remember off the top. I ain't got it on top of my head, to be fair. But the lettering's done by Russ Wooten, and that's the same dream team that did most of the rest of Daniel Warren Johnson's work. So they've all worked together since Extremity, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. The premise of Transformers 1 is this is a reset of the entire universe. Is the all new Transformers era starts here. Superstar creator Darren Warren Johnson, alongside with Energon Universe showrunner Robert Kirkham, reimagines Hasbro's robots in disguise for a brand new generation. Optimus Prime was supposed to have led the Autobots to victory. Instead, the fate of Cybertron is unknown, and his allies have crash landed and far from home alongside their enemies, the Decepticons. All these titanic forces renew their war on Earth. One thing is immediately clear: the planet will never be the same. New allies are struck, battle lines are drawn, and humanity's only hope of survival is Optimus Prime.
There's literally 47. I think it's 47 or 37 variant covers out.
Yeah. I like that you've done main cover by Dan Panosian when actually it's Daniel Warren Johnson.
There we go. It's really bad, isn't it? Shocking. So bad. I do apologise. So obviously this is the main cover by DWJ, Dan Warren Johnson. We've got cover B, which is by Daniel Warren Johnson and Mike Spicer. Cover C is by the same Dream Team. Cover D is by Ryan Otley. We've got the Grassetti Virgin variant. We've got this fantastic Forbidden Planet Armentaro Virgin variant cover. Tom, they didn't have that in Forbidden Planet. I don't know if they're going to have it in their superstores.
No, it's so basically everything's been, all the exclusive and everything's have been slightly delayed recently. So a lot of people won't have got, other than cover A, B, and C. I don't think any of the shops have actually got the covers that they were expecting. Okay. Dr. Von Hoots just alluded to something I was going to tell you all later. Darren Ronald Johnson is only doing the artwork for the first 6 issues, but it is an ongoing series. It's his first ever ongoing series as a writer. Yeah,
which is great. And then I've gone, we've got the Scotty Young store exclusive. That's a subliminal message for you to continue voting for that cover. Look into the eyes, don't look around the eyes. There we go. And then we've got the SDCC 2023 Daniel Warren Johnson Ashcan variant cover, which Tom will now stylishly sharpen his QVC pose behind him. I'll just play the music. So, Tom, let's get to this. Go on. Take it away, sir. Go on.
So, what can I say apart from what an absolute epic comic? Now, this is how you re-envision a old classic. I'm not going to lie. When I read it and I started open the book, read the first couple of pages, I was in. Straight off the bat, page 1, Daniel Warren Johnson punches me right in the feels. And in the first panel, you've got kind of symmetry between what happens on Cybertron and what happens on Earth. So you get this whole thing of one of the characters, I think it's Spike, Sparkplug, his son James, I think it is, gets killed, or Johnny, or I've forgotten the name now straight off the bat, but he gets killed. So there is that kind of symmetry between his death and the death of the Transformers. So straight off the bat, you're punched in the feels. Then it opens up with Spike trying to get his dad out of the pub, basically. And then Spike ends up on the mountain. And then it's just action after action after action. But you also fall in love with the characters straight off the bat. I mean, you don't necessarily have to be a Transformers fan, I don't think, to be able to understand who's who or what's going on. It is very simple. These are the good guys. These are the bad guys. They've just awoken up on a planet and they're going to battle it out. I've been a Transformer fan for as long as I can remember. And when I read the first couple of panels or first couple of pages, I went back to reinvigorating my love for Transformers. I felt like a kid, again, reading a comic for the first time. And I did that whole thing where I got my original out and I read my original and I kind of looked at the contrast between it, because there are similarities and there are a lot of people go, oh, it's the same thing that they wrote in the original comic. It is not at all. If anything, it's more like the 1980s movie crossed with the G1 TV show, which is actually what Daniel Warren Johnson said is his biggest influence on this. But what a reboot, man. I was left kind of gobsmacked. It was almost like Game of Thrones. And I cannot believe that the only point you get to see Bumblebee is he gets his face blown off. Straight off, like straight into it. Let's just kill the weakest one off. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. Daniel Warren Johnson is not going to hold back, I don't think. I don't think any of our characters are safe.
No.
I don't think anything is. I think anything is possible. Everything's off the table. But the fact that he drops a suplex, like 4 or 5 panels in, there's a clothesline and then a suplex. I was like, oh my God, wrestling meets Transformers. I'm completely in. Take my money. What a reboot. That's it. That's all I've got to say. I'm so excited.
Yeah, and he also, I mean, this panel here, right? Look, it's just like a Transformers graveyard. I absolutely loved it. Like, and there were so many things in this, because obviously Daniel Warren Johnson is. I've been a fan of his for ages. Like when he done Wonder Woman Dead Earth, which is, if you haven't read it, is sensational. For me, it's the best Wonder Woman book done. And then he done obviously the sensational and fan favorite Do a Powerbomb. For me, there's so many similarities. You can tell where he gets his kind of character development from, because I think it's Carly, her name is. She looks very much like the wrestler from Do a Powerbomb. So you can kind of see that he's got a character model. Yeah, he's got a character model and he works with it, but it works so well. It works so well. I love this story. It took me back to being a kid, loving Transformers, wanting to edge them on to do better, for Optimus Prime, for Bumblebee, for them all to come together and like beat the Decepticons and stuff. It was just wicked. And there was gory parts in there. Like at the end, when what happens, you're like, oh my God, has he actually done that? And I just loved it. As you said, like the first time we see Bumblebee is when he's got his head gone. And I was expecting like a little speech bubble to come out of like, do you know what? But there's nothing.
It's the second panel in that's been chosen, the second kind of set of panels. There is almost no dialogue in that page, but you can feel the emotion. Optimus Prime's emotion. You can feel Spike's emotion. It's almost like, wow, how can you do that with a character who hasn't got a facial expression? Do you know what I mean? Hasn't got a mouth.
And the good thing I felt was
incredible.
when Optimus Prime's looking for his gun, you kind of then get the you understand how enormous these Transformers are.
The scale,
When Spike and Carly are going to push the gun towards Optimus Prime, and you're like, shit, this thing's massive. It's huge. And then obviously you've got the panel on the third page, which I picked, which is the Scotty Young cover. You can kind of see they must have spoken about this. Yeah. My only concern with this is this is going to go amazing. Like, this is going to fly off the shelves with 37 covers this week, and I think there's another 24 coming out on the next drop. It's already gone into second and third printing, so it just shows how much this is going back into like the 80s and the childhood love of TV series and the original 1980s Transformers film. My only thing with this is that it now goes back to the fact that in Void Rivals issue number 1, Optimus Prime was totally unneeded, because the timeline in it it's kind of thrown it out a bit, because you're kind of like, well, where, right, Jetfire's here, but how is he there? They're all dead. Like, what's going on?
So I read that as the discovered Jetfire woke him up, and then Jetfire flew from that planet to Earth, and that's how you see. Because at the very first panel, there's a comment in the bar, and the guy says, "I'm telling you, a white and red spaceship flew past or something."
Yeah,
so
he alludes to Jetfire. Yeah, and then Jetfire says, "I'm sorry I took so long to wake up."
Yeah,
and it's like, yeah, no, you have been gone for over a couple of hundred years.
Yeah. So, well, thank you for clearing up. That's why we do this show, because I miss stuff like that, because I was so engaged in like there's a choke slam, there's a clothesline coming, there's a powerbomb. I loved it. It's on my pull list. My pull list did shrink for a bit, and now it's fucking back up with the likes of Transformers and Alice Never After. But this is fantastic. There's so much going on in it. The colours are amazing. The story is sensational. Daniel Warren Johnson is a fucking god, and I cannot wait to read it. Peter,
before you go, Pete, can I just say one thing? Can I just ask one question? Actually, no, I'll ask you afterwards. You go first, and then I'll ask afterwards.
I'm wondering if it's the same question I was going to ask you. Did you read this with the voices in your head? Because I absolutely did.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. That's exactly what I was going to ask you. I was literally doing Frank Welker and Peter Cullen in my head.
So was I, all the way through. Yeah. Listen, you know I'm a Transformers fan. I'm an original series fan. I'm a movies fan. I've not read as much of the more recent comics. Because to be honest with you, I lost my way a little bit with them. Mm-hmm. They weren't floating me boat.
Grimlock's amazing. You should read that.
so I've heard, yeah. This just pulled us right back in. This was just like going back to my childhood. It was, I mean, just look at the colours on those pages. It's just jumping out at you. I love the word balloons, like that boom behind him, you know.
So good.
Just stunning. And
he
do you know what
he's doing, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Daniel Warren Johnson just knows exactly what he's doing.
I don't know if Tom feels the same as a big Transformers fan. The movies have destroyed Prime as a character for me. He's not Prime. Yeah. Whereas this was Prime. You know, and that line that the center panel where he just says, "Oh no," it was just heartbreaking for me. You know, I just loved everything about it. And Charlie, you're bang on. I got to the end, and there's a scene. I'm not going to spoil it for people, but there's a scene that made us think, "Oh, actually, this is going to be more adult than cartoon," because that's pretty rough. That's graphic. So yeah, I can't gush enough about this. I would definitely be picking it up. But I'm disappointed, mind, with that comment about I'm only drawn it for 6 issues, because I'm loving this art style.
He's doing the writing though.
Yeah.
He's doing the writing.
Do you know what I love though? Is that obviously there's a certain Decepticon at the end of the comic, and I love the fact that he's throwing a bitch fit going, fine, I'll do it all myself. It's fine. Yeah, no one's going to help me. And you can basically see the other Decepticons going.
Actually, sorry, again, just to interrupt. Sorry, again, the emotion there. We've got that central panel of Prime and Bumblebee, but actually, it was heartbreaking seeing Soundwave and Ravage.
Ravage,
it was like, oh, you know, just superb.
Yeah,
but like what Charlie alludes to, like the character development in this first issue is just insane. You get all the relationships between each character, you get the emotion of the loss, you get the emotion of the bonding, and then him like Starscream throwing a bit of a bitch fit at the end literally is exactly how I remember him from the TV show. I remember him being this kind of grumpy, childish, manky old character who just wants to be the leader of the Decepticons and just will do anything to do it. And he's having a good old whinge at the end. It's like, oh, you know, I can't do this and I can't do that, and I'm injured too. It's like, oh God.
And then how it ends is just like, wow, okay, so this is where we're going. I just think it's awesome. Like I've loved Transformers for years. And I was saying to you, Tom, before we went live, I said I've got like the IDW run. And for me, the IDW run was kind of like this until it kind of lost its way a bit. It was kind of like this, like the grittiness and stuff. But Daniel Warren Johnson, he's got a certain style that works. He knows how to write the characters. He knows how to develop the characters. He knows how to get the point of what he's trying to do across, and the storytelling, and the old comic version of putting the big words behind you, like boom and bar. It just works. It really just does work.
It reminded me very much, when I say reminded me, but it had hints of the original 1984 comics that came out, but more so the UK Marvel ones written by Simon Furman. That kind of like, because the US had stopped doing it and the UK had taken over, the UK were kind of given free reign on who they couldn't kill off or whatever. And I kind of like that. And it works really well for this. And it also, again, very similar to, I mean, we alluded to it earlier when we were chatting in the chat. The Last Stand of the Wreckers is one of the best written Transformer comics of modern age, apart from this one. And that itself is a little bit like this. Bit of Game of Thrones, your favorite characters might not survive. It's very good. But this is just, I mean, this is how you reboot a franchise, man.
This has got me hyper as well, because we know that they've got G.I. Joe and other things. And I'm thinking now, just let loose with this universe. Yeah, absolutely, mate. Let loose with this universe, you know?
Yeah, Ergon universe. We've got Transformers, we've got G.I. Joe, we've got Void Rivals. It's going to be interesting.
There's an interview knocking about on YouTube. I can't remember where I saw it, but there's an interview with Robert Kirkham talking about him taking over at Skybound and getting the Hasbro licenses. And they're like, so what if Hasbro say you can and can't do? And he went, I told them I'm not taking the license on unless I can do what I want.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, cool. You mean you've done well with Walking Dead, so what you got up your sleeve? And he went, cool, this is what I've got up my sleeve. And they didn't disagree to it. But when he said to them, I'm going to get Daniel Warren Johnson to do Transformers and I'm giving him completely free reign, they were like, oh, I'm not sure about that. And he's like, that's just how it works. It's not going to work any other way. You have to give him free reign. So he has got absolutely free reign. And I totally agree with Dr. Von Hoot. More Than Meets the Eye and Lost Light are also top class.
Yeah, they are. And if you do get this comic, make sure you read this part, right? Because this is from Daniel Warren Johnson at the end. Yeah. It's amazing. And he kind of just goes back to the fact, it's like, because he said for Do a Powerbomb, he got his inspiration from AEW wrestling. Like, he's a massive wrestling fan, so he kind of took stuff from the grittiness of that. He also alludes to the fact that he takes some inspiration from this as well, but it's just like, obviously issue number 2 comes out on November the 8th, so we've got a while to wait for it. We've got a month to wait for it, but I think they're pretty smart in how they're doing that, because in between that you've got Void Rivals coming out. Void Rivals issue number 4, I think. You've got G.I. Joe coming out, so in between that, the Ergon universe is kind of ticking away. Before you know it, boom, issue number 2 is going to be, and you're going to be it's fucking awesome. I've got to say, I'm so excited for this, and it just so happens that it came out at the perfect time, didn't it, Tom?
Yeah.
It really did. So, like, in keeping with that, Tom, obviously, as I said, it come out in a perfect time, and look, Tom's literally just like, the weight's off his shoulders now. He's chomping at the bits. So with that, obviously, I don't know who wrote this. Daniel Warren Johnson, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think
so.
I think it's only telling that we kind of bring back Creative Showcase. So, Tom, you can take it away. You've got control. You should have control.
Let me just check. Where's my mouse gone? Where are we? I got control. Yes, I have control. So Character Showcase this week is the amazing Daniel Warren Johnson. Hopefully, I can give you all a little bit of an insight, a bit more about Daniel Warren Johnson, what he's actually done, and what I think is some of his best work and what to look out for. So Daniel Warren Johnson is a Chicago-based comic book artist, writer, and all-round awesome guy. He comes across really well. I've spoken to him a couple of times via Instagram. He is pretty cool, to be fair. Daniel is best known in the industry for his work on titles such as Wonder Woman, Beta Ray Bill, but most importantly, his Eisner Award-winning Do a Powerbomb. DWJ is originally from Massachusetts. He was inspired to become a comic book artist by the late, great Bill Watterson. And during an interview, he stated that Calvin and Hobbes was where his first introduction to comic books began. Now, Daniel Warren Johnson grew up in a very sheltered life. He wasn't allowed to read any comic books or watch any TV shows because of bad influence, as it were. As he grew up, he started going to his local comic book shop and going through the bargain bins, which is where he picked up the original UK Transformer comics. And he was the only person there that ever picked one up. And he used to go in weekly and say, have you got any new books? And the guys would be like, no, because nobody orders them. They're still the same trashy comics in the back. You can't. There are no new books. So that's where his love for Transformers came from. He also stated that he had. Sorry, bear with me. He also stated that he credits a woman called Rosetta, who was his tutor in a local art centre, for being the reason that he pursued a career in art. Not commonly known thing, and this is quite good for Peter, is DWJ used to be a teacher. But that got him into working as a patient transporter for his local hospital, which is where he grew better as an artist, because he would often do portraits of the casualties or his patients. He would often do, portraits of them, which is quite cool. And after a short stay of doing that, he decided to go back to being a teacher. But his wife decided to turn around to him, his wife Rachel, and say, look, I'm fed up of you doing something you're not fulfilled. So she persuaded him to take up a career in comic books, and the rest, as it were, is history. So it is down to his wife that we have this brilliant man as a comic book artist in our industry. I'd like to throw it out there and ask you guys when your first encounter with DWJ would be.
So I was saying to you before the start of the show that I'm only really familiar with Do a Power Bomb and the Wonder Woman series. That's a lie, Tom, because as you've said it there, I've realised I loved and read the Beta Ray Bill series. I didn't put his name to that. I should now, because the artwork's the same, But I absolutely adored that series. And then I picked up Do a Power Bomb on your recommendation and just absolutely fell in love with it. I've not read the Wonder Woman book yet, although I have got it. I've got 4 or 5 issues or something, I think. Yeah, I haven't actually read it yet. It's on my shelf to read, but I'll go back and read that now, I think. Yeah.
See, I kind of got into it in, I think it was Murder Falcon. I think it was like 2017 or 2018.
Nice.
Which was, I loved it because it was the old school grittiness of like the unfinished sketches and the unfinished drawing. I kind of want to see, because obviously you look at some comic books and they're very pristine, they're very like the line work's perfect. Whereas I like Daniel Warren Johnson's work because it's not erratic's not the right word, but it looks unfinished and it's meant to look like that, and it's gritty and it draws you in and stuff. So it was Murder Falcon. Then I think from there I went on to Wonder Woman Dead Earth, which I think came out in 2020. So a few years after, which is sensational. And I've said it time and time again, if you haven't read it, there was 3 oversized books that came, and the trade paperback is sensational. And there's just so much going on in there. You kind of really understand about Wonder Woman. You really understand like her time on Terra Mascara and everything that she's coming from and what she's fighting against and stuff. And then from there, it went to Beta Ray Bill. It was the first and only Beta Ray Bill comic I've ever read. And again, I was only drawn in because I knew it was Daniel Warren Johnson. I knew the artwork that he was trying to get across and stuff, and it was fantastic. Loved it. Loved him as a character, and I can see why Beta Ray Bill is loved, because he's an engaging character. You want to learn more about him because he has these battles with Thor, and you think everyone just wants to be on Thor's side, but then you see the side from Beta Ray Bill and you're like, oh, I love him, I want to do that. And then we go on to do a power bomb, and then to Transformers. So there is no end to this man's talents, and without even knowing it, I've become a huge fan. Subconsciously become such a huge fan of his work.
So mine would be Cable. So he did the Cable series back in 2017 for Marvel, which I'll get into in a bit. But that would have been my first encounter, and I didn't even know him as an artist at that point. I was just reading the Cable series because it just so happened to be an X-Men comic. But he goes into some dark times and does some great things, and that's where the grittiness comes from. I've completely forgot until you said about the rough and ready artwork. Did anyone notice that the panels weren't straight, or the lines and the artwork comes out of the panels?
Yeah,
because it's not quite finished, and I actually think that's incredible. It's such a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
So let me show you some of some of his early work. So in 2012, Daniel Warren Johnson gained huge popularity with his webcomic Space Mullet. This ran for 8 chapters and ended in 2017. This comic is the online and completely free to read, unless you want to get the graphic novel, which Dark Horse actually published for DWJ. It is a very good series. I've started reading it. It's basically black, white, and blue. There are no other colors in it. It's very gritty. You can see where he started and how his talent developed. So it's quite a good one from that. Also, around the same sort of time in 2014, he worked with Donny Cates on a series called Ghost Fleet. And in an interview, Donny said that working with Daniel Warren Johnson was one of the best things he'd done for a long time, and he could tell that Daniel Warren Johnson was going to be huge within the industry. Donny also says if you can find the Ashcan version of this comic, which is very, very rare, it's the rarest thing that belongs with Donny Cates' name on and DWJ's name on.
Wow.
So one to look out for, which I'll show you what it looks like a little bit later on. And then Daniel Warren Johnson went on to publish his own bits and bobs. So he's done quite a few Ashcans at New York Comic Con. The one on the left is one of the ones I wanted to bring your attention to. So this is one of his first creator owns, which is an 11-page spread called Green Leader. And this is a book that tells the story of a Commander R.L. Schneid, who is a pilot during the Resistance during the Return of the Jedi series, because DWJ is a huge Star Wars and Star Trek fan. So it's basically a fan-written book that he got away with publishing, which is pretty cool. And then in 2015, he got his first chance to work on one of the major comics, where he worked on 50 Years of S.H.I.E.L.D. Quake issue 1. This is the first time, like I said, he'd worked with one of the big 3. But this isn't like he should have really worked with Image first, because he pitched his idea for Extremity back in 2015, but they never took it on until 2017. But Extremity is the one that, if you know a little bit about Daniel Warren Johnson, this is what put him on the map. In an interview, he talks about how the idea for Extremity came from an article about a wrestling match between 2 guys, where one guy broke his wrist, and then because the wrist broke in such a way, he had to have his hand amputated. So the whole story has come from that. I've not read Extremity, but apparently it's absolutely phenomenal, and it is an award-winning comic. It's not an Eisner Award winner, but it is an award-winning comic. So well worth picking up if you guys. Have you guys heard of Extremity?
No, I haven't. I've literally just gone on Amazon now, and Extremity 1 and Extremity 2 are sitting in my basket.
Nice, do it. I mean, like I said, he alludes to it being, he got the idea from an article where somebody had basically had an amputee. And he was saying in the interview that the guy who got his arm chopped off felt so bad for the guy who'd caused the damage. He didn't feel bad for himself. He felt really bad for the guy who'd caused the damage, because that guy now was suffering with kind of survivor's guilt, if you get my drift.
Yeah.
So that's where Extremity's story came from. And he talked about it a little bit on his channel. So if you ever guys want to check him out, Daniel Warren Johnson has his own YouTube channel. Again, I'll show you a little bit more about that as we go on. And then, as I mentioned, in 2017, 2018, he had a chance again to work with Marvel, where he worked on the Cable solo series, and he worked with Zach Thompson, where he had the opportunity to push the limits of Cable. Hello, puppy. Come on in then. The dog's trying to come in and chat me up. So he had a chance to work with Zach Thompson, where he was able to push Cable in different ways, and he has been credited with the creation and design of a monster character that plagues Cable throughout his youth, called Metis. I can't remember that particular character. I did try to find a picture, but I don't remember it. But this is where I fell in love with Daniel Warren Johnson. I just didn't know it was him until I read Do a Powerbomb.
While you're just saying that, Extremity, I've literally just bought one on Amazon. Trade paper 1, trade paper volume 1 for Extremity, and trade paper volume 2. They're only £11 on Amazon.
Yeah, I was just going to say, how much are they?
Yeah,
they're £11, so pick them up.
Bargain.
Absolute bargain.
I'm loving that image of Cable, mind. That's
it's
yeah.
His Cable run was insane. It was he just completely pushed the boundaries with his artwork. I think it's kind of where everything started, because he did start to bring in, if I remember rightly, there's a power bomb in it. I'm pretty sure Cable power bombs somebody, which is where I fell in love with it. And I was like, oh my God, this is awesome.
I think what I've noticed throughout the work that he's done, he's said it time and time again. He grew up watching wrestling. He grew up watching the indie shows of wrestling. So throughout his comics, like you notice it, and I think you do notice it in what was the one I said? I can't remember. What was it? Murder Falcon. You do notice it. You do notice it. There's a few wrestling moves in Murder Falcon. There's some in Transformers. There's obviously Do a Powerbomb, which is full of it, and then there's some in Cable, I think it is, that you can see, and I think that's really endearing that he's getting his personality across and his hobbies that he's into the work that he's doing for the rest of us to read and enjoy.
Yeah, man. He did do quite a few notable books after Cable, and in between the next few books I'm going to show, but I will get to those in a little bit more depth, as it were. So he also did quite a few of these Ashcan published own works that he took to New York Comic Con. Peter, you'll like this one. So he did Martok from Star Trek back in 2016, which is a self-published book. A little bit of a backstory about Martok. I've not read it, but it sounds amazing. From I had a look at the Key Collector, it sounds like it should be quite a good read. For those of you who are interested in Pacific Rim, he also did Cherno Alpha. I don't know why I haven't changed the little bits at the bottom of the slide, so I do apologize, guys. They should have been completely changed here, so that's my error. Bad me. Shoddy workmanship. He also published another one, which is probably the one he's most famous for within the circuit of the Ashcan, which is Old Man Skywalker. Now, if you can get your hands on this, it is worth a fortune. Especially if you can find the rare 5 that are signed and remarked by Daniel Warren Johnson from the first time he delivered it. So that's one to look out for, guys. And then not a self-published book. I know I said I was talking about self-published book, but I can't go without mentioning Jurassic League. So Jurassic League was a very fun comic. It's not going to win any awards, and it's not one of those ones that you probably would have picked up, but it's a very fun read. Daniel Warren Johnson was able to take the Justice League characters and all their villains and basically turn everybody into a prehistoric character, which is fun. And it was a really good book, but like I said, it's not going to win any awards. I think he was just given a bit of free reign, and unfortunately, I think DC pulled him back a little bit. So in the series, it gets good, and then it gets a little bit like, oh, I'm not sure whether this is any good. But it is a good read. I would recommend you pick it up because it's Daniel Warren Johnson, so it's worth doing.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
That one.
I enjoyed it, and like initially when I see it, I was like, I think it was on one of these shows. I was like, what the hell are DC doing? Like, what are they doing? And when it was like, I looked at it, I was like, I'm not going to read that. Like, come on, that looks like a pile of shit. But I ended up getting it, and I ended up really enjoying it. Like, it was just, again, it's his artwork. You find yourself engaged and looking into his artwork because you can see how much time and effort has gone into it. Like, I
think it might have been only written by him. I'm not sure entirely because I didn't read it, but I think it's possible he only wrote most of it. I don't think he did much of the artwork. I think it's just the covers.
Yeah. But it was like look at that cover. Like,
I mean, it looks mental, doesn't it? It looks crazy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And speaking of mental, that brings me on to the one that Charlie mentioned. Now, Murder Falcon is one of his critically acclaimed comic books. It is basically what would happen if you had a magical guitar that would basically every time you played a metal track, it would bring this Murder Falcon down to earth to fight giant kaiju. That's basically what happens in this comic book. If you get a chance to get the trade paperback of this, there's a really lovely snippet that Daniel Warren Johnson talks about how in a world where we are all stressed out and we've all gone through problems and we've all had issues, music can save you. And he talks about how in his life, metal has saved him from countless things and helped him move on from tragedies and all sorts. So Murder Falcon is kind of a book written about his love for heavy metal and just the silliness that comes with heavy metal. So if you get a chance to read it, it's very worth reading. And like I said, he states that personal thing right at the start. Do you guys want to hear the synopsis of this, or shall I just move on to the next book?
I know about it, Pete. Have you read? I mean, I love this. I thought
you're costing me a flaming fortune. That's all I'm going to say, because I'm searching for all these bloody books, because that sounds right up my street. I have to say, it's
so good,
amazing. Yeah.
So, basically, just to cut the synopsis short, the main character Jake, or Jake, is part of a band. And the band kind of disband because something very tragic happens to Jake. And then this book is literally about him repairing his life with the help of metal, Murder Falcon, and destroying giant, massive kaiju. So what more do you want from a book, really?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. The trade paperback's cheap as well.
Yeah. It's not, they're not hard to come by.
Yeah, that's another one.
And then that brings me on to the 2020 Wonder Woman Dead Earth, 4 issues of pure glory. The synopsis of this one, or the premise of this one, is basically the world has died. Everything is basically everything's gone to shit. Everyone's dead. There's this kind of group of post-apocalyptic characters kind of scattering the earth looking for food. They fall into Wayne Manor. And as they fall, they knock over this kind of genetic machine that's holding Wonder Woman hostage. They release Wonder Woman. She comes out. She punches the crap out of these monsters. And then she starts piecing together what's happened. Like, the world's ended. Where is everybody? Where are we? Why have I got no powers? Like, where are my powers? What's happened here? Then the story goes on, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but it's such a good twist of where the monsters came from, who the monsters are, and why Wonder Woman has no powers, and why she was locked up in this cryogenic chamber. Very, very interesting. I only recently read it, but it's a DC Black Label, so it's got nothing to do with the normal DC universe. So good old Daniel Warren Johnson had a shout at kind of doing something completely different and kind of going out of the realms of what DC would hold him back for. So yeah, well worth reading. So, Charlie, did you say you'd read it?
I loved it. If this is how, if there was a Wonder Woman film like this, I would watch it every single day, because honestly, the way that she's portrayed is like it's just a sensational story, like through and through, from issue 1, from the first page to the end page of issue number 4. It's just awesome. It's such a good story. It's so good. I can't shout about it anymore. It's so great. Pete, have you read it?
So I went to a local Comic Con last year, and there was some of these boxes where it's like 3 graphic novels for a tenner or whatever. And I got volumes 1, 2, and 3, thinking that was the full series. And I didn't realize until recently. So I picked up the 4th volume off eBay, but it's sat there waiting to be read. But you've got his taste now, so I think I'll probably read this weekend, and this will be my weekend reading.
Let me know what you think, because I thought it was fantastic. I really did. I'm glad that I read it, because I hadn't read it, and Charlie had mentioned it, and then when I started putting the slides together, I was like, I haven't read this. I need to read this, because it's, like I said, it's one of the critically acclaimed. It's not won any awards, but it is a critically acclaimed piece that he created.
Do you know what I like about this show, right? And obviously it's our show, so I'm going to be slightly biased, but when we do these character spotlights and the creator spotlights and stuff like that, you forget how much work they've done previously.
Yeah.
So, and because we do the review part of the show, we focus on the comics of here and now. But when you look back at it, like for Murder Falcon, like that came out in 2017.
Yeah.
But yet when we did it, I was like, oh my God, I read that. And I wanted to read it again. And obviously Dead Earth I want to read again. Yeah, he's doing like the Transformers, and he's got all this new stuff out, and like do a Powerbomb and stuff. But if you do get a chance, this was released 3 years ago.
Yeah, it's mad.
Give it a read, like Murder Falcon 2017, Beta Ray Bill 2019, this was 2020. If you do get a chance, anyone in the chat or anyone watching a rewind, you can see how Daniel Warren Johnson has evolved. But his artistic talents are still the same. He's still going to engage you in. He's still going to draw you in with everything he does. But this, for me, is by far the best Wonder Woman comic I've ever read.
One of the things that he does do, which I think we mentioned a bit earlier with the Transform comics, is he draws you in with emotion. He's very good at giving you characters' backgrounds and relationships and emotion in the first couple of panels. And then you're kind of stuck with the book. Then you want to finish the whole book. that brings me on to Beta Ray Bill, which came out in 2021, and came out of the horse shit that was King in Black. But it was a crossover with Thor.
I will not hear a bad word spoken about that horse shit.
Yeah, King in Black is from there. But basically what happens is Thor destroys Beta Ray Bill's hammer, and our fan favorite horse hero doesn't know what to do. So he goes on this quest to find a brand new weapon, and what a quest he goes on. What an amazing story Beta Ray Bill is. I mean, he goes from he just goes from bad to worse for him. They get some new characters get involved. There's a bit where he fights a giant god of some sort with a giant sword. I mean, what more do you want?
But again, it's the emotion. Again, it's the emotion of that single character that DWJ is portraying and sending across to the forefront of all the stories that it's doing. And you can't help but feel emotion, whether it's hate, fear, love, admiration. You can't help but feel that for these characters. And it's the same in the Wonder Woman thing. You know that she's doing wrong in some of these parts, and you know that she's going up against some serious shit, but you're like, you're just trying to egg her on to get the best out of it. And it's the same with this. This was fantastic. This was great. And it was the first ever Beta Ray Bill comic I'd ever read.
Yeah.
And I kind of pinch myself and think, why didn't I read anything else? Why didn't I read anything more? But it's only because Daniel Warren Johnson done this that I got interested in it.
Yeah.
So I'm a big Thor fan, and this was just everything that I had wanted in a Beta Ray Bill comic, because he's a character they've tried to do stuff with him lots of times over the year, and it doesn't ever really kind of click. But yeah, this miniseries is phenomenal. I'm slightly irritated, but again, Tom, because of the money you're costing us, because I have not seen that variant cover there. That's not one I've spotted.
Issue one of the
homage one. Yeah,
that's
phenomenal. I'm gonna have to get that. That's amazing.
Dr. Von Hoot has just mentioned something pretty awesome. I didn't know, even with all my research, I didn't find this out. But because the band they talk about a band in Murder Falcon, they actually have available an album to listen to on Bandcamp, which is pretty cool. So I'm gonna have to look for that. That is awesome.
Yes.
And so, guys, that brings me on to the other self-published piece of amazing stuff that Daniel Warren Johnson doing. And I'll get to do a power bomb, but before then, he did this amazing piece of work where he does a homage to his favorite wrestler, who is Justin Thunder Liger. This one again came out at New York Comic Con, so if you can get your hands on it, apparently it's amazing. But this is actually what inspired him. This is
the Luchador Liger, isn't it?
Yes, the Luchador Liger. So it's basically, he did this book. Thank you, Liger, for inspiring me. And then from that, it took him into the ADW kind of route, and then to create Do a Powerbomb. So if you can find this one, guys, it's like rocking all shit, but apparently it's out there. It's out there in the public, and there's a few that he's remarked. So if you can find one again, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Which then finally brings me on to the one and only Eisner Award winning book that we have read every single issue of here on the show. It got the golden stamp last year. I'm pretty sure Transformers will probably get the golden stamp this year, but what an amazing book. Do a Powerbomb is by far my favorite book of the 20th century, to be honest. It was so good, emotionally incredible. I don't want to go on too much about it, but if you guys want to check out our previous show where we do go on quite a bit about Do a Powerbomb, please do. But like Charlie said, the only thing I wanted to touch on this is it is directly inspired by indie wrestling companies, including ADW. Not so much WWE, but all the more indie companies and how the struggle they have. And also it's a bit of a homage to some of his own life about what he would do if he got given a wish to bring back a loved one, which is quite an amazing book.
And again, sorry to interrupt. At the end of one of the comments, he kind of does what he's done at the Transformers, and he says where his inspiration come from and stuff like that. But as Tom said, if it is very much driven by like the indie wrestling, the AEWs. But also, if you watch the TV show, I know Phil's Nerdiverse. I know that he watches it as well, and I think Dr. Von Hoot does as well. There's a TV wrestling show out there starring Stephen Amell, and it's called Heels. and it's about an indie wrestling company that are on the startup, and it's the DWL. If you look at the belt here, it's the DLPW. There's so many similarities out there, and obviously to be a wrestling fan, you have to like wrestling, but to read this comic, you don't have to have any interest in wrestling.
Absolutely.
Because the emotion, and I know you, Pete, you don't like wrestling stuff, but you got into this.
Loved it. So I used to watch wrestling, crikey, back in the day when I was younger, and it was The Undertaker and Hulk Hogan and stuff like that. But I've not watched wrestling for years and years. It's just not my cup of tea. I read this based on you guys recommending it, and it's one of my favorite. I think probably one of my favorite books I've ever read. If I'm being honest,
agree.
Because of the emotional impact. The artwork is phenomenal. The imagery is phenomenal. That front cover there you've put up of them flying through the air. That's one of my favorite images. I just think it's stunning. But
it says the whole premise of the comic, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
The whole comic in one shot.
And again, I'm man enough to say I cried at points in this book. It was really, really quite hard hitting and emotional at points. I just thought it was phenomenal. Thought it was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
In an interview, Daniel Warren Johnson talks about how they ask him straight out. They're like, "What's your, out of everything you've done, what would you say would be your best work?" And before he doesn't even take a breath, he goes, "Do a powerbomb."
Yeah.
And then, "Oh right, anything else?" He's like, "No, do a powerbomb is the best thing I've ever done. At the moment, I have got things in the pipeline." And he then alludes to, because people constantly ask him, apparently it shows, "Are you going to do another season of Do a Powerbomb?" And he said no.
Yeah,
he's going to finish. It finished where it is. There won't be a volume 2. That's it. Same with Murder Falcon. It ends where it ends. There's not going to be another one. And I quite like that about his style. It's a case of it's done. I'm not going to flog a dead horse, as it were. So moving on, this was a little thing that Andy brought me into when he did Scotty Young. So every artist tends to have these sketchbooks, and Daniel Warren Johnson is no different. So he's got these 2 that have come out. So you've got his essentially, I don't know if you guys know about this, but artists do this thing called Inktober, where they just do inked drawings for all of October. And he's been doing it for the last couple of years. So you've got 2021 and 2022. He hasn't done 2023 because obviously we've just got into October, but you can get these off his website. They're very reasonable. I think they're $10 each, or you can buy a digital version, which is $5. But they are accessible. And he said,
just looking now, Tom, they are $20 now, and they're sold out.
Are they actually $20 now? Sold out.
$20.
But they're $5 for the downloadable one, right?
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
You can get the downloadable. I think that's probably because he did an announcement in his newsletter. So if you do go on his site, sign up to his newsletter because it's amazing. He mentioned on his site, if you get the hardcovers or trade versions of these from his website, you take him to a Comic-Con, there are a couple of slots where he can do a remark for you, and he will do. Because if you've got it, he'll remark it, basically. So that was quite a nice thing to get. So keep your eye out for these guys. And then that brings me to the finale, the last book to mention, but there's probably no point in mentioning it because we've already reviewed it. But what a book. And I'm just so glad that this man is on this book.
I've got to say, I've been obviously when Void Rivals came out, I was like, okay, this is like the whole Ergono universe. It's all coming back. But I think secretly, as like you two, we've been waiting for Transformers. We've been trying to fill a void, excuse the pun. And this is the Void Rival. This is the rival that's been waiting to fill the void, as it were. And I think it's pretty smart how they've done that, because this is the one that's going to blow the lid off everything, and it's going to kick off. And I'm just interested to see how this goes, how it's going to go on and stuff like that, because it's a really good story.
I'm just so relieved that it was good. Do you know what I mean? Because you kind of you see another Transformers book and you think, oh, please don't be dog crap. Do you know what I mean? Please give us something that we've been clamoring for a long time, and it just knocks it out the park. So hyper for it.
It does.
I'm not sure whether I've got my numbers correct on this one, but I read somewhere it's either 15,000 copies were sold of this or 150,000 copies of this were sold, and that's including the second print. And it's not even been in the second print yet, which is just it's just absolutely phenomenal. Now, I mean, I'm hopefully going to be on This Is Me with Peter at some point, so you guys might hear this again. But when I read that they were going to do a new Transformer comic, and Transformers is not just close to my heart because it's something I grew up with. It's something I grew up with a very close person to me who is no longer with us. So I relate everything to that person with this, with Transformers. So when I read that Daniel Warren Johnson, who happens to now be one of my favorite artists, was doing this, I was like, I really hope he does this justice. And I'll be honest, like Peter, I read the first issue and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I nearly cried because how excited I was. And the boys all, appreciate this. All day I've been texting them both, showing them pictures. I've been listening to the soundtrack. I've been so excited to get on the show and talk about it. So thank you guys for listening to me wobble along for as long as I did.
Oh, absolutely.
And talk about Transformers. There's just a couple of other things to run through with Daniel Warren Johnson. So if you want to look out for some of his amazing art that you won't see on his Instagram and you probably won't see on the internet, other than if you go to Flexi Comics, Comic Art, there's loads of artwork on there that you've probably never seen that he's done. And also there you can contact them if you would like a commission from Daniel Warren Johnson. I just picked a few here that I quite like because he's very heavily influenced by Japanese manga. So there's a few Japanese manga things here, and also picked Usagi and Jimbo purely for comic deal. If you see it,
probably not.
But it's well worth checking out his website. And then also, guys, if you guys are interested, these are the 3 most expensive books, if you can find them, that have got anything to do with Daniel Warren Johnson. So you've got Ghost Fleet, the Ashcan issue 1. This is what it looks like. So if you can find it in any bargain bins, it is worth a fortune because there is no price on it. There has never been one found or sold. So you can literally, I suppose, free money, I guess, put whatever you want on it. Cherno Alpha is another one. It's about $90 to $100 if you can find it. And then the Old Man Skywalker is looking around the $500 mark if you can find it with the remark. If you find a normal one, I think it's about 100, 150. But if you find one with the remark on, it's ranging between the $500 to $600 mark, especially if it's CGC'd, which is pretty cool. So keep your eye out for them, guys. And then if you want to find out any more about Daniel Warren Johnson, you can go to his website, which is www.danielwarrenjohnson@danielwarrenart.com, or you can go on his Instagram, where he's very, very active, or you can check him out on his Twitter, again, where he's very active, or you can go on his YouTube, because he has got his own YouTube channel where he does drink and draw sort of thing on a Friday night, where he's called Drawing with D-Dubs, because that's his nickname, is D-Dubs. And also, if you're interested, guys, tomorrow, it'll be 1 o'clock in our time, but it's tea time
in the
over
morning.
there.
In the morning.
In
so
the States over there.
In a few hours, 4 hours, 5 hours.
A few hours. He will be doing a live commentary, director's cut of Transformers, where he'll go through it with you, why he chose what, and where the story's going, sort of thing. So if you're interested in that, it is worth getting on to. And that's it.
Tom, you've cost me and Pete an absolute fortune.
I'm skint.
Thank you ever so much for listening, guys. That was really cool. Thank you.
No, it was superb.
That was wicked. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, thanks for that, mate. I've literally just looking forward to my Amazon trade paperbacks arriving tomorrow. So that brings us off to the final order cutoff, and that's not my wife cutting me off from my wallet. It's the top 3 FOC.
The final wife cutoff.
There we go.
Call it.
So obviously the final order cutoff is the date retailers must submit their orders before publishers set their print runs. Orders must be placed with Slab Crusaders before 9 p.m. on Sunday. Otherwise, your order will be cut up, ripped up, thrown off, fucked off, cancelled. You ain't getting your comics. One done. See you later. So up first, Peter, you chose this one, didn't you?
I did, yeah, I did. I know very little about it. I just think the artwork is absolutely stunning. But this is by, and I'll butcher his name, Simon Kudransky, who's the guy who's doing Something Epic. I don't know if you guys are reading that. It is amazing. It is a very text-heavy book. It's very wordy.
Issue 1, and then I realised what had happened at issue 1, which is a bit too close to my heart, so I stopped.
Yeah, it is very text heavy. I want this to come out in a big kind of large format book. This is his next kind of create our own, as it were, book where he's doing the writing and the art. It looks phenomenal. So yeah, I'm definitely picking this up. I just think it looks great.
If you head over to One Man Art Comics, you can see some of the stuff, and he's very he does it loads of. He's very active on Instagram, and you can kind of see what he's doing. But yeah, it does look. He's got that kind of Stranger Things-esque feel, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, looking forward to that.
I love his artwork. His artwork is absolutely
stunning.
phenomenal.
Stunning.
Yeah. So if you give that a scan, you can kind of pick that up from Slab Crusaders. Tom, you've gone for this one. This looks wicked.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anyone else loves The Offspring, but The Offspring were my jam when I was growing up, when I was skating. I love The Offspring. So they recently did a new album, which was called Let the Good Times Roll. And it looks like they've managed to bag a comic with Image. So I'm looking forward to grabbing this one. So I thought I'd bring this one to you guys. I can't remember what the name of the cover artist is, but that's the reason I picked this one. But Charlie's put the writer and the artist on there for you, and I'm not even going to attempt to read their names apart from the Josh bit. I mean, I could read the Josh.
I think it's Josh Trujillo and Gary Gastoni. We'll go with
Gary
that.
Gastoni. We'll go with that. But I love it. I love the idea of it. But it's all based around the Day of the Dead sort of thing. So, and just
that's a wiki comic. By the way, that's a wiki comic to read from AWA, Day of the Dead, because it's wicked. It's kind of like one day. It's in like the Mexican calendar, one day a year.
Okay.
Everyone's loved ones, they rise from the dead. You get to spend your time with them, and then they go back. What I'll do, I'll send it to you on the group chat. It's wicked. It's such a good comic. It's such a good comic.
Cool. I'll check that one out.
So we've got this one, and then I've gone for Punisher #1. It's another reboot of Punisher. Chip Zdarsky is now off of Punisher. He's kind of focusing on his Batman run and various other things that he's doing. But I've gone for the Scotty Young cover, written by Dave Papose and art by David Watcher. You can't go wrong with this. And the thing is, I've kind of now fallen in love with the new Punisher logo. I hated it to begin with, absolutely hated it. And then I kind of read off the back of that. I read what you suggested, Pete. You said give Punisher a good read, and I loved it.
Yeah,
I loved it. So
Chip Zdarsky's Marvel stuff is much stronger than his DC stuff. I don't know whether DC are just
because he's done a few issues of this, and then obviously he did Daredevil, and now he's finished his Daredevil run, and he's now focusing on the DC Batman and stuff. I still don't think DC are letting him do what he wanted to do with DC. I think it's very much like Batman is Batman. You can't colour outside the lines with Batman, whether you're Chip Zdarsky or Donny Cates or whoever you are. DC have a strategic plan. Batman is what it is. You can't go through it with that. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how long he stays on that for. But yeah, Scotty Young, he's pretty fucking awesome, as Dr. Von Hoot just said, isn't he?
I'm excited for this story as well. I think it's an interesting new take on the Punisher, so it is going to be interesting. I think I'll definitely be picking up a few variants for this one, I think.
Yeah, why not?
I think I'll probably jump on this one. I quite like jumping on the number ones, just so if I like it, I then can continue with the series.
Yeah, exactly.
The problem with Marvel stuff, though, is if they reboot it and they don't kind of give you a little bit in the first issue, and they kind of expect you to already know what's going on, you kind of like, I'm good. I don't want to get involved.
Yeah. There we go. And then look, Phil's saying I'm enjoying Zdarsky's Gotham more at the moment, but I agree it feels like it's been limited. I think it is, and I think it is, unless you're kind of with like an indie publisher where you can kind of spread your wings and spread eagle, as Pete said on his fantastic video of the Peacemaker unboxing. So if you haven't checked that out already, head over to G Comics and check that out.
Very well done, thank you, John. Yeah.
That's all right, mate. So yes, up now we've got the killer indie picks for October the 11th. So up first we have Tom. You went with a Haunted Girl issue #1.
I did, and I don't know why, to be perfectly honest. So the thing is, I like Ethan Sachs. I think he's a great writer. So when I read that he was doing something for Image, and it was going to be the Haunted Girl, I thought, let's give it a go. So the premise is Cleo, an adopted 16-year-old Japanese American whose depression drove her into near suicide.
I like where you was going with that though, because I was more engaging.
Trying unsuccessfully to reignite back into her old life, but her struggles are just beginning as she encounters the increasingly terrifying succession of ghosts. Is she losing her grip on reality, or is it the explanation much, much worse? So I don't do horror copies, but I was like, yeah, that sounds cool.
Sounds interesting. Yeah, I like the sound of that. I thought Ghosts interesting because it looks like it's a spider or something coming over her back. Do you know what I mean? It looks like it's got...
Yeah. But she's a 16-year-old Japanese American who's.
The Cole issue #3. It doesn't say much about this. The Cole issue #3, written by Kelly Thompson, art by Matteo De Lewis. All it just says is that it wasn't the mushrooms. So, but I'm loving this. I'm really liking the artwork on this, and I think James Comedill mentioned that the art is is very current. Like, it's very bold. It's very graphical. It's very engaging. I'm really enjoying this. I can't see where it's going to go. Like, it's a bit of a mind fuck, to be fair. They've kind of taken a portal into a different dimension, and all hell's breaking loose because they're trying to find the missing brother of the main character. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm looking forward to reading this. What about you guys? Have you read it?
Yes,
we read it on the show, didn't we?
Issue. We read the issue 2, didn't we, Peter?
Mm-hmm.
We both enjoyed it, but we both had the same thing of it being, is it fit filler, this issue?
Yeah, I think the art was absolutely stunning. The art's phenomenal. It just felt like it didn't go very far. Issue 2. I'm hoping issue 3 picks up a bit, but I am enjoying it. It's the one that's got us intrigued because it's an interesting story.
Quick.
Up next, I went for this one, Army of Darkness Forever, issue number 1. So this is written by Tony Fleets. You might know Tony Fleets for doing Stray Dogs. And then obviously there's various artists. I think there's 2 or 3 different artists on this. But the premise of this is, after it debuted in 1993, the classic Sam Raimi film Army of Darkness quickly became the most beloved movie of the popular Evil Dead franchise. And with the launch of their Army of Darkness comics in 2005, Dynamite set a new standard for the indefatigable Ash Williams adventures in any medium. Now, after nearly 3 decades of Ashtastic action, Dynamite is up in the ante with this ultimate AOD comic book series, Army of Darkness Forever. And apparently this picks up immediately after the events of Army of the Darkness. So I'm very much looking forward to this. I think it's going to be gory. I think it's going to be graphic. That's Ash on the front with his hand as a chainsaw, which you, Pete, you have the 6 scale of this, don't you?
I do. Yeah, I do. It's a great film.
There's nothing that you don't have. The man with the plan. Do you know what I mean? If you want to see what that figure looks like, head over to Triple G Comics and just say the Killer Comics Show sent you. But yeah,
I'm excited. I'm a big fan. Have you seen the Army of Darkness TV show?
Mm-hmm.
It's hilarious. I mean, it's just so.
But it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be.
No,
it's funny.
Yeah, it's just, it's mid. So I'm looking forward to this. Again, a bit like my Transformers comics, I've not read an Army of Darkness comic for a while. So this feels like a good jumping on point again to get back into it. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that. And then we are now at the end of the show. Tom, what's the scores on the doors, Miss Draws?
The scores on the doors with a pathetic 16% is me.
It's me. What?
Birds of Prey. With a pathetic 16%, that would be me. With a not much better 19% is Peter, which means for the first time in a very long time, with 64%, a massive landslide, is Charlie.
Wow.
With Transformers.
Bravo. Yeah. Well deserved.
I'm just going to take this time to I'm going to take time to thank myself for choosing such a great comic. You guys in the chat have been sensational. I love you all. It's been emotional. It's been very emotional. But it's just me on my own. He's a wanker. keeping me on. Stop it. But yeah, it's great. I kind of secretly knew that the chat's normally full of Scotty Young fans, and I thought and do you know what? I thought I'd play my trump card, and it worked. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for that. So yeah, thanks.
This slide needs updated.
I'm well happy. But that's not all. There's you can follow me over on Instagram, Geeky Guy Comics, and on Twitter, Geeky Guy Comics. You can also follow Pete on YouTube, royalty.com/Triple G Comics, and you can also follow him on 6 Scale Comics /Pete'sGotEverything.com, and you can also follow him on YouTube
on the internet
every single day of the week, Monday to Friday /DoYouWantMoreOfMe.com. Tom, where can we find you?
You can find me on PetersTheNicestGuyInTheWorld.com, or you could find me on Instagram, Not Quite Mint, or you can find me on Instagram, Tom Malin PT, if you're interested in any fitness advice. Or you can find us both at the Killer Comics Show on Instagram and Twitter if you want to know what's going on at the show. But if you guys haven't seen the most recent This Is Me over on Triple G's channel on YouTube, it is a must watch because I've never known anyone say the words a whit a quick so amazingly.
It's that Geordie twang, isn't it? Whitaquick.
It is that Geordie twang.
And how did you say it again, Pete? How did you say it?
Whitaquick.
There we go. Look at that.
Whitaquick.
Look at that. But that's all this week, or is it? No, it's not. It's the Killer Comic Show sneak peek for next week. It's pretty slim pickings. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. It's Star Wars: The High Republic, Shadows of Starlight, issue number 1 from Marvel. So the paper quality is going to be shit. Tom's gone for, what have you gone for?
Plot Holes, issue 2, which is brought by Massive and I think Whatnot. I've also gone for Marvel's Gods. Apparently quite a good read. A few people have reviewed that quite well.
Okay. And then there's Strange Academy. This has been delayed by 3 weeks. This is Strange Academy, The Amazing Spider-Man issue number 1. The vote for this is now on the community channel on YouTube. So if you want to pick 2 of them comics or the winner of the comics, and then we will review that on the show next week. But that's everything. Guys, fantastic show. Tom, well done for that. Daniel Warren Johnson, you've cost me a fucking fortune. I'm now going to finish the show.
You're welcome.
And my wife's going to be like, I thought you was doing your show and you spent money on Amazon. Because I'm a man and I can multitask. Okay? Yes, I can.
They say you can't.
Hold on, I can't talk and drink at the same time.
Yeah.
That was a good show. I enjoyed that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Peter, why don't you tell everyone what you've got coming up on your show?
So tomorrow we've got one new show on mine and James T. Keegan's new channel. One last scare show.
I'm looking forward to this. So is it a new you're setting up a new channel?
It's a brand new channel. Yeah, so it's a brand new YouTube channel. We're going to do a live show tomorrow where we're looking at movie reviews, horror movie reviews. It's all scary.
This is what you can do when you get too big for your own channel. After you hit over 1.4 thousand subscribers, you think, no, I'm just going to start a new one.
Well, why not? Why not? So we've got that tomorrow night. Yeah. Saturday night, it's the Saturday Night Live show. And then I'm not sure what I've got on Monday. There's something on Monday, but I can't remember. Something.
Awesome.
See what I mean? It's like, let me speak to my PA. What have we got on? I don't know, Pete. I don't know what you've got on. Just let me let you know. But no, honestly, fantastic show, guys. Thank you every single week for jumping on and we do this. Thank you every single person in the chat. Thank you for Tom for absolutely smashing it out of the park with Daniel Warren Johnson.
Yeah,
has anyone got any pickups? Because I feel like we're missing some pickups. Has anyone got some?
I've got a few.
Of course he has.
Oh, of course he has. I don't, because my delivery didn't come.
Past the watershed, so I can show you my shiny red helmet.
Make that guy big.
Look at that! Look at that!
Oh no, that's me.
Is that the other red helmet? Is that
that's the other red helmet? Yeah,
that's my red helmet.
Look at that! It's cool, isn't it? Yeah. We are the future, Charles, not them.
Where did you get that from? That is amazing.
It's a Marvel Legends helmet.
That's awesome.
You're out. So yeah, that's nice. I picked these up on your guys' recommendations.
Oh mate, yes.
Distillery.
We need to do a show on this.
Yeah, so looking forward to reading them. The chunky books, man, for the price. I think it was only £7 or something for the price. Yeah. Our friend Andy very kindly sent us this.
Andy from where?
Andy from Ireland, from Scotland.
Perpetual.
So yeah, so he sent us that as an act of kindness, and he also sent us that. So over the moon with that. That was exciting. And if you guys next time you invite us back, do you know Kevin Wells, the artist? Who does the show with it? He's published his own self-published book called The Weeping Blade. It's just a short story. But it's really cool. So I bought 25 copies of that
nice.
to give out as giveaways. So next time we're on the show, if you want, we'll give away some of those.
Cool.
And because I bought a few of them,
you can do that next week, Pete, because you're back on next week.
Spot.
Spoiler alert: I'm not here.
All right. And he sent us that as a freebie. So yeah, very pleased with that. And The Weeping Blade's a great little story. So yeah, we'll give away a few copies of that if you want.
All right, cool. Anything else?
No, that's you. That's your one.
Right, well, I'm going to jump in because I went to Forbidden Planet yesterday. So I did a good thing yesterday for you two. I went out and I bought the comics I was going to read and I scanned them in.
You shouldn't tell people that. You might get cancelled.
I'm going to get cancelled.
Plagiarism, piracy.
We ain't got enough viewers to get cancelled. You have to be on the level of Triple G to get cancelled. But yeah, we couldn't.
Triple G might get cancelled.
We couldn't read it. It was shared privately. Okay, not so fucking privately. But yeah, Forbidden Planet had a very good like sale on trade paperback. So I picked up Nottingham down from $13.99 down to 99p. That's a 99p, right? So I picked up that. That's awesome.
That's really good.
It's an awesome book. It's a wicked book. And then I got Animal Castle down from $24.99 down to $4.99.
Still not read that one.
Oh, that is good.
It's all right, to be fair.
Some
it's
Simpsons.
Weird.
Big Bonanza down from £8.99 to £2.
That's my nickname, Big Bonanza.
Then we got I thought you was called the Bum Burner. The burn burner. Sorry.
The bum burner. No, that's only on a weekend.
It's the bum burner, not even the bun or the bum. That was down to
Saturday night at Thought Bubble, mate.
That was down to 99p.
I mean, you're not supposed to tell anyone.
I'll pick up that. But then your other nickname is Kick-Ass. Right?
Kick-Ass, yeah.
So I picked up this.
Lick ass, that's afterwards.
$29.99 for a hardback down to £5.
Yeah, that's mad.
Right? So that's
the original Kick-Ass story.
Yeah, that's volume 1. Then I got volume 2 for £2.
Nice. Awesome.
Which is pretty good. And then I got volume 3 for £5 as well. Another hardback.
Very cool.
Oh, so, what a shame that volume 2 is not hardback.
I know. It was for $24.99. Down from myself from $29.99. So I was like, I couldn't really justify paying like saving nearly 30 quid on the 2 issues and then paying the money that I'd saved for a hard. No, I just didn't get it.
No, I get it.
And I did try to change the tickets on it, but then it kind of ripped the front of it, so I didn't bother.
Such a Del Boy thing to do.
Giving away my trade secrets here and I. But yeah, my pickups. That's my pickups. I might go back to mine, try my luck again. Just like take a little squirty gun and
take a steamer or something. And
exactly. There we go. That's where we get to where we want to get to.
Where you're going to be walking around like Forbidden Planet going.
So are you okay then? Yeah, I'm
fine. I've got asthma.
But on that note, I think we'll end. It's been a great show. Thank you for the contribution for everyone in the chat. Thank you for taking part in it. Thank you to you gorgeous men for spending Thursday night with me, and we shall do it all again next week. Enjoy what you're reading, enjoy what you're doing, don't transform too hard. And Tom,
be kind to each other and stay safe, stay geek. See you later.